Hey, good morning everybody. So we finally made it, and here we are today, day one of our outdoor Portland, 2-day Portland trip. So as we were making our way up towards Spirit Falls, we took Highway 14. And I know there's actually two ways you could take. There's the 85 or the 14. And I highly recommend taking the 14 highway, primarily because the scenic drive is actually really beautiful. The 14 is along the Washington side, and the 85 is actually the Portland side. And the one key difference is that when you're on the 14, which is on the Washington side or more on the northern side of the Columbia River Gorge, you're at kind of a higher vantage point, which gives you a beautiful view of the Columbia River Gorge and just along with the other mountains that you're driving as you're making your way towards Spirit Falls. So we finally made it, and let's take a look and see Spirit Falls, number one. Alright, so we finally made it down towards Spirit Falls, and isn't it just beautiful? It reminds me of the one time I was in Iceland back in 2014 where I visited the Golden Circle, and this waterfall reminds me so much of that particular waterfall in Iceland. Anyways, a couple of things about this trail is to make sure you input the destination of Spirit Falls in your GPS, because there's no noticeable sign that's telling you where to go exactly. And once you find your parking spot, again, there's not going to be any sign, so make sure that when you do park on the side of the road, you're going to make your way down towards the right along a relatively steep, rocky path area. And if you do see that, that's where you know you're on the right track. So make sure you continue to follow that road all the way down until you hit Spirit Falls. And once you do, just really enjoy and just take in all that beautiful scenery and just enjoy some nice little forest bathing. Alright, so on to the next destination, which we'll be visiting Beacon State Park. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, so a little bit of some bad news. So it turns out that the Beacon Rock State Park is actually closed, primarily due to COVID reasons. And we ended up trying to find a trail down to see if we could access any other things. And it does take you to an area where you can actually go rock climbing. Obviously we didn't bring anything. And obviously I'm not that good at rock climbing, but it was a cool little area. So instead we decided to go ahead and check out the Pool of the Winds, which is basically just literally driving up the little small hill, just basically south or north of Beacon Rock State Park. And it looks like it's a 2-mile hike. And we'll see, or 2 miles round trip. So let's see what it has to offer, yes? Let's go. So I kind of want to give everybody a summary of today's events, and I just want to say that we ended up spending too much time over at Spirit Falls, and granted it was actually a really beautiful hike, so I would highly recommend everyone visiting Spirit Falls if you do end up making your way down towards Portland. Now unfortunately Beacon Rock State Park was closed primarily due to COVID reasons, but I would highly recommend doing the counterpart hike, which is the Pool of the Winds trailhead, which is basically a like 2 to 3 minute drive from where Beacon Rock State Park is located. And normally I like to do a review of the actual trailhead, kind of summarizing what is the pros and cons of doing this particular hike, but because of the fact that it was already getting dark, I didn't really have a chance to really do that. But from what I saw, I would highly recommend visiting Pool of the Winds trailhead. And the reason why it's called this is because of the fact that when you actually make your way down towards the trailhead and actually view the Pool of the Winds, what you end up seeing is a waterfall that's coming from the top of the mountain, coming all the way down and landing into a small little alcove or cave. And what it ends up doing is creating a little bit of a wind funnel that brings out all that misty water coming out. And really cool, really scenic actually. And unfortunately, we were unable to make it to Multnomah Falls, primarily due to the fact that it was already getting dark, and I would imagine you wouldn't be able to really see too much of the actual site itself. So what we're going to end up doing is doing that tomorrow morning. So as a way to kind of end the evening, I wanted to get some panoramic night shots of Portland. So what I ended up doing was going to a place called Rocky Butte, which is supposedly based off the reviews, is a good place to see some panoramic views of the city of Portland. Unfortunately, as we were making our way up, and as we did make it to the top of the Rocky Butte, you didn't really get a chance to see much of anything. Granted, it was a very nice place to really hang out and just kind of get a way to just settle in for the evening. It wasn't anything that, as far as I was expecting. So what I ended up doing was talking to some locals to see, like, you know, can you guys tell us where we can go to see a nice panoramic shot of Portland? And so they ended up recommending a place called Pittock Mansion, which is basically northwest of Portland. And unfortunately, as we were making our drive up towards that area, the main road to Pittock Mansion was closed, so we were unable to really access that as well. Oh well, can't really, you know, sometimes you plan things and they don't really go as planned. And as far as dinner is concerned, we ended up going to a place called Lechon, which is basically known for their Peruvian style dishes. So what we ended up ordering was, hold on, okay? It's hard for me to pronounce some of the menu dishes. So what we ended up ordering was a spiced tuna tirotito, which is basically an emulsion orange leche de tigre, whatever that means. Some patatas, some pork chops, as well as the Peruvian chicken. Overall, the dishes were really good, and ideally we wanted to order some scallops, but for some reason they were not really allowing that to go. I guess they just didn't have that on the menu. I mean, they do have it on the menu, but you're not allowed to take it to go for some reason, I guess. So we just recently got back to our place and we just finished having dinner, and the fact that this was our second meal of the day was very satisfying. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of relax for the rest of the evening and make sure we prepare for tomorrow's events. So alright guys, stay tuned for tomorrow. Hey, good morning everybody. So had a good night's rest last night and we're just feeling tired from all of the activities that we ended up doing yesterday. We're gonna make our first stop at Pip's Donuts, which is primarily known for, I guess, their donuts and as well as their chai tea and their chai coffee. Unfortunately, when we were driving up towards the parking area, there was quite a bit of a line, so long line equals must be good, right? Let's check it out. So as far as the donuts that we ended up ordering, we got the cinnamon sugar, the Nutella with sea salt, the candied bacon maple flavor, the Reggie Lee, which is essentially a combination of all of the other different flavors put together. And they have their special seasonal holiday one, which is the coconut creamer. So looking really good. And one of the drinks that I ended up ordering is called the Japanese Garden, which is basically a green tea matcha mixed with a lavender chai, and it sounds good, so I'm excited. Not gonna lie, the donuts were actually really good. The one interesting thing about this donut is the fact that it's very crunchy. And normally when I end up eating these small donuts, usually they're like from a fast food place, it's just horrible, right? They're soft, they're mushy, and like typical powdered donut that we are all accustomed to. But these ones are almost they are deep fried. And you gotta eat them fresh. You gotta eat them fresh, because the minute you put them in your mouth, you get this nice, succulent, crunchy, flavored donut just oozing in your mouth. And as far as the flavor is concerned, I actually really like the coconut creamer as well as the Reggie Lee, which is basically a combination of all the other flavors. The bacon maple donut was actually okay. It was a weird combination. Well, she likes it. I think it's okay. Just primarily because it's a weird combination of salty and sweet. I mean, they definitely got that down pat. So, all right, so now let's go ahead and make our way towards Multnomah Falls. Unfortunately, the weather is not as good as yesterday's, but we still got to see it. So one of our impromptu destinations that we came to visit is a place called Vista House. And supposedly you get a fantastic view of the Columbia River Gorge, but unfortunately, you can see how foggy it is and we can't really see much of anything. But really cool place and definitely worth a stop by if the weather permits, right? All right, last stop for the trip is the Japanese garden. Now, I know I initially had plans to do the grotto and the Japanese garden for today, but unfortunately we had to basically choose one primarily because of a time constraint. So a couple of things about the Japanese garden is obviously you do have to pay for parking and it's $2 per hour. So depending on how much you plan on staying in the Japanese garden, just pay accordingly. As far as tickets is concerned, you can buy your tickets online and basically pick a time slot for when you would decide to come in. Because as of right now, we bought our tickets at about 1:10. And because of COVID, they're not really letting people in right away. So you have to basically pick a time slot for when you plan on going in. So in our case, 1:30. So waiting only about 15, 20 minutes, not too long, but yeah. So Japanese garden is actually pretty cool to visit. Now, unfortunately, obviously, because of the fact that it's winter time, not a lot of things were actually in bloom, but I could clearly see how beautiful this place would be if you came by, particularly during the cherry blossom season, because they had a lot of these trees that were basically empty branches, and they had a lot of cool walkways as far as the water path and things like that, the sand garden or the Zen garden. But hopefully do plan on coming back sometime in the winter or in the fall time because that's where things are either blooming. So last but not least, the best thing to do to end our trip to Oregon is to go shopping because there is no sales tax in Oregon. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and fortunately when the next time you guys do end up visiting Oregon, coming by to the places that I ended up coming to visit with better weather. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care. All right, guys. So actually, after stopping by to go shopping, we ended up going to a place called Voodoo Donuts. And if you've never been to Voodoo Donuts before, this is one place you actually have to come and stop by, especially if you're into like donuts, for example. You just have to look at it. They have such a variety of different types of donuts that you cannot possibly fathom. And I mean, look at this. They have something called the Homer. If you guys remember from The Simpsons, it's kind of like literally emulating the Homer Simpson donut, right? They also have other things like the Voodoo Doll, the Captain Crunch type donut, M&M donut, and just all of these different types of assortment of donuts that you could actually get. And so what we ended up getting was the bacon maple bar, the dirt, the ring of fire, as well as the blueberry cake. All right, thanks everybody for watching, and I hope everyone's having a good day, good evening, and I would really appreciate it if everybody hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.